Hi, Susan from Illinois. It took me a minute when I opened up the event to figure out how to actually make it launch. So I sat here for like 45 seconds and there was no video feed, but I got it figured out. See? I have no idea if anyone else is even coming tonight. So I guess if not, it'll just be me and you for a little bit. Trying to find. I sent an email out to my email list and then I posted it in both of my Facebook, well, my boot camp group, and then of course in our membership. So we will see. Okay, how do I get that? I need to. Here is the full study lesson with printable materials. Just joining us. I am going to pin this post. Oops, I did not mean to do that. And pin this message. Okay. Well, how's the weather in Illinois? What part of Illinois do you live in? West of Chicago. I actually went to, after I finished boot camp in Orlando, I went to my A school training for like 9 months in the Great Lakes area. This southern Texas girl does not like the Chicago area in the wintertime. No bueno. 85. Yeah, but in like 2 months, it's going to be like 85 below, right? That was like a big reality check for me. It was warm during the first half of my school. And then after Christmas, oh my gosh, it got like, I didn't even think that cold was even an option. I mean, it just doesn't get that cold here in Texas, at least down here in South Texas. How long is your summer? May to October, 5 months. Well, I'll just say it's easier to tell you our winter. Our winter is part of January and all of February. And then that's it. It's over. By March, we're back up into the like 40s or 50s, which I mean, it's still kind of cold, but by the end of March, we're usually back in shorts. You didn't have any snow at all last winter? That's crazy. do I share this link? Well, I was hoping at least a handful of people from the actual Bible study would jump on here. I even prepared like extra questions. I actually asked ChatGPT to help me create an outline to use for the online version of the wrap up. It actually gave a pretty good outline for a live stream. ChatGPT is just so awesome. Well, now it says I have 2 people on. That's the only thing. I only can see when people comment. Like I can see there's 2 people, well, now 3 people, but it doesn't let me see who they are. Please say hello. So, since this is a test run, I will say this is a little awkward doing it compared to just recording the Zooms or just doing the Zooms when you guys are there. It's like I'm talking, and if anyone's chatting in the comments slowly, but I don't know what to say if y'all don't ask or say something. And I don't really want to dive into it until we get at least a couple of people going. Susan, you haven't gone through the study, right? Yeah, it was supposed to be 13 weeks. I actually had 3 additional lessons planned, but we got to week 10 and I kind of think everyone was over the topic. I mean, it was really good discussions. We have a handful of people that stayed with it through the entire 10 weeks. So that was pretty good. There were a few that started off really strong, but then around week 5, they kind of tapered off. But we've had some really good discussions from the people who have been staying with it. So I decided to call it at 10. And then I'm finishing up a new study on transforming negative thoughts. And that's just going to be a 4-week study. So I should have that one done in another couple of weeks. So when we finish this weekend, so actually today's Friday, so it's the last day, we'll take 2 weeks off to just sort of have fellowship in the group and then get started on the new study. So I'm really excited about this one. So it says there's somebody else on. It says there's 2 people watching, but the other person hasn't said hello, so I don't know who it is. Well, this is awkward. Um, so Susan, how are you feeling about the shorts that you've been doing? Started popping up, or I don't remember if it was YouTube or in my Instagram, but I've seen your videos come up in the last couple of days. They look really good. Ooh, it says we have 4 people joining now. So if you're just joining us, please say hello in the chat. Just say, hi and where you're joining us from. And we'll get started with the questions soon when I have some actual people to talk to. Well, they look really good, Susan. I mean, yeah, the editing's a little weird at first until you get used to the program. But once you figure out like exactly what you're supposed to be doing, you'll get much faster at it. So if you're just joining us, please say hello in the chat. Just hop over and say hi and just kind of say where you're joining us from. This is my very first live event, so it's probably going to be a lot of awkward. That's my dog chewing on something in the background. I don't know if y'all can hear that. So I have no idea how many people are going to come, but the hope is that we'll at least have a few, and we can start going through some of the questions, the end of study questions for the Modern Idols Bible study. But just let me know that you're here. Tabitha, hey Tabitha, thanks so much for coming. So I'm just going to kind of get started since I at least have 2 people here. I'm going to start with some of the questions. So we're wrapping up the 10 weeks of modern idol worship. And so we kind of went over 10 different idols. We had technology, social media, money, control, self-righteousness, and a few others. So I'm curious as to, out of all the ones we talked about, which one was the most surprising to you or really made you kind of step back and say, oh my gosh, I think I've turned this thing, or this thing is an idol in my life and I really need to kind of check myself. Honestly, for me, I couldn't pick just one. The idol of self was a very powerful one for me. Having, grown up, I shared this in the study. Growing up the oldest of 3 children with an alcoholic mom, having to be responsible for everything, and then joining the military, always me, the one having to take care of everything, and then proving myself, especially in the military, because I came in when women were just really starting to come into certain roles, and I was the only female in engineering. And so it was just a constant state of having to show that I could handle things. Like like I was there was an I in my team. Okay. And that trickled over into post-military, where it was, it was just always me. And Tabitha, yeah, control. I think self and control, not self-control, because I really didn't have any of that, but having control and thinking everything is on me. And those have been super hard for me to overcome, but I'm getting there. I mean, obviously I haven't perfected it yet, but Susan says, my phone, Twitter, and politics. Yeah, politics has gotten me lately. I try so hard, and I mean, I just try to avoid it. I want to know what's going on just so I'm aware, but sometimes it just reels you in, and it's so hard to when you think about the world and the state of everything we're dealing with, and then the politics of it, it's very hard to remember that no matter what happens politically, God is still in control and he's going to work everything out for good. Like I always have to literally say those things out loud to myself when I start thinking certain things after I've seen like a political post or something like that. My phone is another one. I do kind of start having panic attacks when I can't find my phone. I don't know how I survived as a kid. I mean, I was talking to my own kids the other day about how when we were kids, we just go off and not come back until it got dark, and we didn't have phones. Our parents never knew where we were. I can't imagine myself doing that today. Although I am proud of myself. When I went tubing this past Friday, I had my phone with me, but I was so afraid that I was going to drop it in the river that I kept it inside the little baggie, and I was just too afraid to get out. I mean, I think I checked it like once or twice, and I took a few pictures, but then I put it right back in because I was just so worried that I would drop it. So that was kind of a test run for me, 3.5 hours floating down a river and not being on my phone. And you know what? I didn't die. So everything's great. Let's see. The next question. For the idol that you just listed, how does it distract you, or just in general, us as Christians and the vision as Christians? Like, how does it distract you from the mission that you have? Like, love God, love others, share the gospel. How does your particular idol impact that or impede that or get in the way of that? Really? Y'all got nothing for that one? Let's move on to another question. Tabitha says, I miss the true meaning of relying on trusting God by controlling everything. Yeah, control is, I mean, personally, I think control is probably the hardest one. We want to control what happens next. We want to feel like we have control. And also depending on, maybe things that you dealt with as a child or in your background, for me, for sure, letting go of control is something that's very scary, but understanding that we didn't really have the control to begin with, like control is an illusion. But it's a natural response. We want to affect outcomes. And I mean, whether it's in parenting or in our jobs or just in everyday stuff, and learning to trust that the plan is God's and he's going to work it out for our good, even if that plan doesn't look like what we wanted it to look like. Like really thinking God knows better than me, so just be quiet. That's a hard one. Susan says, being on Twitter keeps me from being present with my family, my chores, my work, and then I stay up too late scrambling to get things done. And I could be spending time with Jesus. Yeah. I think social media in general, I've never been a big Twitter person. I mean, I have Twitter, but honestly, I never really got Twitter. In other words, I never really quite understood how to use it. For me right now, it's actually TikTok is my time waster. And so I have to set time limits on when I can get on it. Like not in the mornings. I do Bible study or read my Bible first thing in the morning, but once you get into that social space, it's almost like the world around you just fades into nothing. And you're like, "Oh my gosh, I forgot I have kids. I'm supposed to make dinner. I'm supposed to do this." And in the meantime, it's actually filling you with a bunch of not not fruit of the spirit thoughts for sure. Mm. Um so what practical steps can you take to ensure that you do not fall into the trap of one of these idols, or if you sort of have fallen into it, how to start pulling yourself out of it? I mean, for me personally with social media, it was I have a rule when I wake up in the morning. I mean, obviously my alarm is on here, so the alarm goes off and I just tap it, but I don't pick it up and read, even if I see there's messages on there, I do not open it. I go get my coffee, I come here to my desk, I have my morning devotional that I read, and then if I'm doing a study or reading from the Bible, whatever it is I have planned, and I try to do that for like the first 30 minutes of me being awake. And only after I have finished reading God's word, that's when I'm allowed to actually, okay, who was messaging me? That's when I actually turn the computer on, turn I have Air One on my Bluetooth. That way, first thing in the morning, the only things going into my brain is God's word. And when I do that, it's like a reminder that anytime I start sort of following any other idol or thinking, I have control or, I want to do something on social media in the middle of the day and I really shouldn't be doing it. Because I've already got God's word on my mind, it's easier for me to snap out of it and remind myself than if I like try to do it later in the I know some people like to read their Bible in the evening, like before bed. I can't do that. I have to do it before the noise of the world gets in my head. And it took me a long time to figure that out because I do have ADHD, but that has helped me a lot. Mhm. Let me 25 here. Have there been any of the idols that we talked about during the study that maybe you struggled with in the past, but were able to overcome it? Not any you're currently necessarily working on, but some maybe that you did overcome previous to actually starting the study. Susan said to the previous question, I forced myself to leave my phone in the other room. I need my morning Bible. This too, and I do get so much more done. Yeah, I mean, people always say that, like start your day with God and everything will be fine. Everything will work out and your day will just be better. And I mean, when people say that until you've drank the Kool-Aid and done it, it's just like, I mean, how's that really going to change my day? But it really does. And I know on days that if I wake up late or honestly, so this past week, it's past 2 weeks actually. So, my one dog, Rusty, I had taken him to the ER last Saturday, like 5 in the morning. So the rest of that day was just off because I didn't even get to do my morning devotional or anything. And a few days this week, it's been like that as well because my other dog, she's been really, really sick. And so when I wake up in the morning, I'm tending to her, making sure just, whatever she's needing. And when I finally sit down here, it's already like later. And so I have noticed this week that my days are off because I haven't been starting them first in God's word. Like it is a noticeable difference for me. Oh, I don't know if y'all heard that. It was a video. So here's another one. I didn't mention this one as one of the 10 that we talked about, but it was the idol of really the idol of success, the pursuit of validation, recognition for accomplishments and things like that. Has anyone really struggled with that one in the past? I definitely did. Again, back to my military time, it was always about proving myself. I mean, like it was to the point when I look back on it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was so vain in seeking, like, I want the credit for everything. I'm always trying to prove that I'm better than, like, to the point that I would put myself in for awards. So, like in the military, you get like different awards for different things that you do. And, your supervisor is supposed to put you in for it, but they wouldn't. So I would submit my own self form. And I felt like I needed almost like every trophy, every award for my chest candy, every, plaque for my wall. Like those things really matter to me. And I felt validated when I received those things. And then once I got out of the military, it was like none of those things even mattered anymore. And at the time I wasn't following God. So um coming out of the military, I was then trying to seek those same accolades in the workplace. And I finally just realized like none of that stuff matters. What matters is that God thinks I'm cool and he loves me anyway, no matter what I do. So I think that was a really hard one to get over. I don't really care anymore. I mean, I can't think of the last time I really wanted like the validation for something. Yeah, chasing likes on social media. I used to be like that. I mean, when I first kind of got started. Now I don't. Honestly, I do social media now because that's like the next building block for the ministry. But I have learned that the impact is made in the smaller things. Um, like we all want to have 10,000 followers. And I mean, I think I more do this with my family, like, and it's just because of the relationship I have with family. Like my mom's on Facebook, my mom's on social media all the time. Like she lives on TikTok. But I'll share pictures and then I'm like, and I can see she's online because on Facebook you can see who's online at any time. I'm like, why isn't she hearted it yet? Why isn't she liking my picture? So it's not so much for the validation, it's more just issues of my mom not commenting on my post. But I've seen people get really bent out of shape over, like it more impacts their, like their self, like their, not their self-esteem, but like you can tell they get their validation from it. Tabitha says she did this with how many certificates and different skills. Yes. I mean, I'm a high school dropout. So I dropped out of high school when I was, I think in like ninth, I was technically in 10th grade, but I skipped most of my ninth grade year. So I technically didn't have enough credits to be called a 10th grader. And so I think part of my striving was to balance that I was a high school dropout. So like to prove my value. I mean, I have a book around here somewhere with every certificate known to man that I could have acquired during the military. Like anything that would result in a certificate, I had to do it. Before even the internet started, there was ones you could do through correspondence. You do it all and then mail it in. They send you a certificate. I just felt that if I had more certificates, then because I was a high school dropout, people would take me more seriously. And I mean, they didn't. So that kind of never worked out for me. Well, y'all, two people that I'm so thankful that you joined my live. um, let's see, we're going on like 33 minutes here. I know it's evening for everyone, so I don't want to keep everyone on here late just to ramble. But I do very much appreciate you coming to at least give me support in doing this first live. Um, and to end this study. My plan is when we get ready to launch the next one, the 4-week study on transforming negative thoughts, I do want to do this every week for each of the lessons. And so maybe, if Friday nights don't work, maybe we can figure out a different time that works more for the most of the people. Or maybe I'll do it 2 different days so that everyone can figure out which one works best for them. But either way, thank you so much for coming tonight. And I'm sorry it was just the 3 of us, but I do appreciate it. And I will see you guys all in the Facebook group. Have a great weekend. Bye, Susan. Bye, Tabitha. I can figure out how to turn this thing off. Yeah. End. There we go.